evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right. Hello. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. My name, of course, is Kimberly McLemore. Welcome to a special edition of the WSBI Your Resource for Success podcast program. I have two phenomenal guests I will be bringing on the show this evening. I will be bringing on a phenomenal guest. His name is Kenyon Salo, who is the owner and founder of Kenyon Salo, Inc. And as we call him, Kenyon is the James Bond of speaking and keynote engagements. Also with us, I will be bringing on next, we will have a phenomenal author. And she is also, her name is Martha Young. She is the founder of I got my brain here all mixed up here. She is the founder of I Am Not Broken Yet, and author of War Stories. So we will be bringing on Miss Martha Young here shortly. But without further ado, let's get our first guest on this evening. And we're going to bring him on. We got Kenyon coming up here in a couple of seconds. Hey, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing amazing, Kimberly. Thanks for having me on board.
You're welcome. Of course, this isn't our first time together, but this is the first time that we actually have been able to be live and hanging out with each other, right?
That's right. I see you. I can see you in person. I love it. I love the energy you bring to the table. It's so fun.
Well, thank you. I'm excited about tonight. This is always my lifelong dream to be able to hang out with you and actually get to see you now. I mean, even though I'm not with you physically, but hey, this will work, right?
One of these days, I'm going to take you out of an airplane. Well, we're going to go skydiving together.
Hey, I'm ex-military, so I've been up in a few planes, so we're good. We may be able to do that together. If I can't make it, I'll probably send my son up there because he would probably love to do something like that.
That's
but
awesome.
No, I would absolutely come and at least try. If you don't try, you never know what's going to happen, right?
That's exactly right. That is exactly right.
All right. But one thing I'd like you to do is, why don't you tell the listeners just a little bit more about yourself, and then we're going to dive right on to this awesome interview.
Well, my name is Kenyon Salo. I live in Boulder, Colorado, and one of my favorite things to do is jump out of airplanes. I do get to jump on the Denver Broncos skydive team. It's called Team Thunderstorm, and my true passion is keynote speaking. So I travel all around the world. I do international speaking engagements, and I help people through a process of 3 easy steps to live a life of fulfillment. And so it's truly wonderful to be able to do that, to be able to be in front of audiences, be able to connect, be able to impact lives. And for me, live my best bucket list life, be able to experience the world, share the stories with others, and be able to hear their stories. And ultimately, what I think is most important is helping others. And when I help others first, I know everything I desire comes back tenfold.
You're right. And I just love your energy because I've been following you and watching you. Like I said, we've talked before. And the thing that just amazes me is how you conduct your speaking engagements. You don't do normal speaking engagements. You actually are standing up. When you say standing up on a higher level, you are literally standing up on a higher level, and kind of explain what that means to everybody else.
Yeah, I really study the craft when it comes to speaking. I think it's really important. I believe that audiences are consuming content differently in this day and age. So I believe speakers have to deliver content differently in this day and age. And one of the things that I love to do is I want to make sure I touch upon the 3 different types of personalities. There's the visual people, there's the cognitive people, and then there's the kinesthetic people. And so throughout the keynote, I make sure that I touch upon those. And the part that you're talking about is the experience section, where I bring a 6-foot, 8-foot, sometimes even a 12-foot step ladder on stage. And I use that as a visual, as that's where we want to go for our dreams, goals, and desires. And at one point, I actually stand on the very top step of this step ladder. You know, the part that says, do not stand on or above, could cause serious injury or death. I make that step and I'm standing there, both feet on top there. And it really makes the audience uncomfortable, but it's also a way for them to really understand and how I'm able to impact them, but have them unpack what's happening and realize that in that moment that their environment, their world is keeping them from doing what they really want to do. And I have to go up there and make sure that the audience doesn't keep me from doing what I want to do. And so we unpack that. And it's really visual. It's also visceral. It's really pretty powerful.
Yeah, it is. And that's what stands out. I've noticed you doing that in a lot of your speaking engagements. But the thing that I love about what it does is it forces people to bring that fear out of themselves.
Yes.
Doing something that's considered the unknown. Like you said, who in the world would ever think about standing on top of the very top of the ladder, knowing that it tells you don't do that? But at the same time, if you don't step out of your comfort zone, you'll never know what it feels like on the other side, right?
That's so true. And, the time that I'm up there, I actually went online to find out the number of injuries and fatalities that happen from people on step ladders. And I found out that 90% of those happen at the home. Well, fortunately, I'm at work when I'm standing on the top step. So, calculations wise and risk management, I'm on the side of safety.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess you could. It's the same way they think about how many accidents you have versus in the air versus being on the ground driving a car, right?
That's exactly right.
Statistically,
it's all perception.
Right. But according to statistics, there are actually more accidents on the ground than there are up in the air. So I guess you're right. Perception is really what it boils down to. But like I said, if we don't step out of that comfort zone, you're never going to know what's on the other side. So when you're talking to your people out there, you're not just talking to your everyday crowds. You actually talk with children. You go to the high schools on top of dealing with adults. What is the message that you provide to them?
The message is we're all looking for the same thing. We want to know how to live a happy and fulfilled life. And I truly believe it's very, very simple. What it comes down to is if someone ever feels stuck, they feel like they want to get somewhere and they're stuck. I want to be this in my job. I want to be this in my relationship. I want to have this in my life. And they're feeling stuck. What it comes down to is doing 1, 2, or 3 of these things, but you have to start with at least one. And the very first one that I share is creating experiences. It's the things we want to do and see. We want to travel. We want to experience. We want to jump out of a plane. We want to see the Eiffel Tower. We have to create new experiences to feel alive again. The second thing that I believe that we need to do is connect. And we connect by sharing stories. That's what we're doing right now. We're sharing stories. We're connecting. You're a great storyteller. And you're able to get great stories from people. So you're delivering that to your listeners and your viewers. And, we're more connected than ever, but we're also more lonely than ever. So I truly believe we need to connect and share stories. And one of the great ways to do that is over holidays, get-togethers, things like that. A lot of families got together. They shared stories, etc. Then the third thing, number 3, which I think is the most important, it's why we're on the planet, is to help others. And when we help others, as I mentioned, everything comes back tenfold, but it's the thing that fulfills us. It's the thing that makes us feel like, wow, I did a good thing in this world. Whether it's just a little thing today or it's a big thing over time and space, it's all about helping others first. And that's what's really, really important. And when we do that and we do those 3 things, you can't feel stuck when you do those 3 things. It's impossible.
Ooh, you're right. Look, you got me all excited.
That's it. Woo, yeah, let's do this.
Super forgetting about what I was going to ask you next, just listening to you. I'm like, okay, I'm one of those students right now. But that's the thing I love about you is that you allow people to come inside with you. We're not standing just outside the circle listening to you. We're actually involved and, just in the middle, in the mix of what you're just saying. And you're right. What you give and what you put out to people, you will get back tenfold. And it's not about how much it is. It could be that one little thing that can awaken any individual to start living their dreams. It's like to start doing the things that they want to do. So tell me though, a little bit, and the listeners, explain how you really got inspired to do these things. What really made you jump into starting the speaking engagement process and teaching people really what it means to live their dreams?
So I really believe there are amazing speakers around the world. And what makes it a really amazing speaker, and I had to learn this myself, was authenticity. So first and foremost, I had to learn from my mentor. He taught me how to be my authentic self on stage. And that shows up off stage. It's that 360 transparency. It's the ability to be able to be whatever you are on stage, you live by the book off stage. And I think that's truly, truly important. So what I bring to the stage and what I share with audiences is how I've lived my whole life. It is an amalgamation of my whole life that's all come together. And for me, I've been a speaker, I've been a trainer my whole life. It's been kind of that theme that has been going through from day one. But what I realize now is that I needed a platform. And it wasn't until about 3.5 years ago in 2015 when I started to really understand what the platform was, how I was going to deliver the message from stage. Because there are speakers who say, I just want to be inspirational, or I want to teach leadership or team building. And I'm like, well, what are you going to say? I'm going to talk about team building. And it's like, well, you need a platform. And so I was able to bring in the model of the bucket list life, that model that I believe of create more experiences, share more stories, and live more fulfilled by helping others. And that started resonating with audiences. And when they grabbed a hold of it, then I continued to build on top of it. And over the years, version 1, 2, 3, we're on like version 3.0 now. It just gets better and better. And so it's really being received quite well with audiences.
Yeah, and you're right, though. I love what you were saying a few minutes ago about how you need to understand what your platform really is going to be about, right? I mean, we all find that trying to understand what is you're going to convey to your audiences is important. That's a very important piece because there's a million consultants out here. There's a million people who want to be motivational speakers. What are you trying to motivate? What is it, your topic that you're trying to want people to really understand and try to learn? And I like the 3 pieces that you put together because you make it very clear that in order for people to see you, you have to be unique. You have to be different. But at the same time, get everything across that you need across so that people are really understanding who they are authentically. And that's the piece I love that you just said too, being authentic, because anybody can see a phony a mile away because there's a million of them out here pulling in the dollars and raking them in, saying, this is what I'm going to do for you, right? But then at the end of the day, when you walk out, you're motivated, but at the same time, you're not really motivated once you walk out, after you pass out that door, right? And
that's right. That's right. And sometimes, for example, magic tricks, the most powerful magic tricks can be the ones that are the most simple to do. And I believe that the 3 simple concepts, because there's amazing speakers and they tell these stories that are powerful, but there's a gap between where the audience is and where they're at. And the audience says, wow, that was amazing, unbelievable, but I could never do that. I could never make that leap. That bar is too high for them. And so what I like to do is, yes, I come to the table and say, look, I jump out of an airplane and I land on the field for the Denver Broncos. But I'm not saying you can do that too. Right. I'm purely putting it on the level where anybody can walk out the door immediately and do 1, 2, or all 3 of those things starting right then and there. And it's so very simple. And then they have immediate return on that. They feel great. And it's a cycle. And it's a continuum, and they build on it. And then next thing you know, I've had people come back a year later and said, I am so amazed at what I was able to accomplish in a year by living those 3 very simple principles.
Exactly. Because like you just said, when people walk out the door, 90% of the time, like I said, you feel good, but then can I really do this and can I really do that? And if people just use basic principles like you're teaching them, they will be able to actually sit down and say, these are the things that I want. And it doesn't have to be 3, but if you're just at least living one of those and actually taking the action steps that you need, you're going to actually be successful. And that's normally what people do. They get excited, they get motivated, but then they won't take those following steps. And I love your energy and love how you teach people that this is what's important. And even though being reciprocating and doing other things for others is important, if you can't help yourself, there's no way you can help somebody else. So
that's right.
You have to be able to understand your own self-identity. And I like how you bring those principles together so people can learn those identities. So explain to me, if somebody was to walk up to you today and they say, look, I really do want to be in business, help me get there, what advice would you give them?
Well, here, first and foremost, it's about taking action. And I can challenge you, and I can challenge all the listeners right now and all the viewers. Think of that one thing that you've always wanted to do, whether it's business or you want to travel or you want something you want to have or experience. Think of that. You got it? It's in your forefront of your mind. You got it? It's there? Mm-hmm. Now do it in the next 12 months. And you see what happens is I share that exact thing from the stage time and time again, and I get pushed back immediately because people come up with stories. They don't have the time. They don't have the money. They're location bound, or they have fears that they have no idea about, but they're there. And they immediately just want to say no. And I say, if anybody wants something in life, whether it's business or a relationship, or they want to be successful, or they just want to have an experience, they have to say yes first. Say yes and let the how figure itself out. The how will always figure itself out, but they have to say yes. And when they commit to that yes, that's the game changer. You know the number one thing that keeps people from jumping out of airplanes? The toughest thing for someone to do to jump out of an airplane is make the phone call and make the reservation. That's the hardest thing.
That's true. That is true.
After they do that, everything falls into place. So that's the first thing that I say to people is make sure you say yes. So if you want to start that business, say yes, I'm going to start it, and put a timeline on it that it's going to happen in 12 months. Look, it doesn't have to be $1 million business in 12 months, but you can start making phone calls. You can start, if it's a brick and mortar place, find the location. If you need insurance, get insurance. You need licenses, make that happen. That's what it comes down to, is just putting the ball in motion.
And you're right. It's as we call it, speaking into existence, right? Once you
exactly.
Into existence, it's time to make the move. But I think a lot of people, what they do is they get so lost because they've got the idea, but then they really don't know what those moves are. And then that's when it's important, and why it's so important that you have mentors and that you go and talk to other people. You do a plan. I don't care if it's on a piece of paper. You need to plan out sometimes your steps so that you can see where you're going from point A, B, C to D. And like you said, if you're giving yourself 12 months, you should have a plan laid out for 12 months. And if you don't have all of it, at least start with something so that you can see where you're at each step of the way and know what direction you need to go. Do you need to stand still? Do you need to continue to move forward? Whatever it is, it's going to make that business successful or make your goal successful that you're trying to reach, right?
That's right. We all have dreams. The next big step is exactly what you said. They turn into goals. Then goals turn to planning. Planning turns to action, and action is reality. And that's the top of the step ladder for me. The goal at the bottom is to be at the top, and I have to do through all those things to be at the top of the step ladder for my dreams to become reality. And that's the key, and you have to go through those steps.
Right. And then guess what? And it doesn't happen overnight, people. Okay.
No.
It takes time, but don't give up on your dreams. Make sure that you continue to move forward. Make sure you continue to have those action plans and those steps so you can get to that top of the ladder, because I want to see some other people stand up on that very top of that ladder like Kenyon does. Because I'm telling you, and when I look at you and I see you on your videos, I just be like, oh my God, I'm so inspired. Let me go out here and do something else. Not like I need anything else to add on my plate, but it makes you think. It makes you really sit back and realize, what else am I here for? And I think that's what people are starting to they need to realize, that we all have a purpose. It's once you find that purpose in life, you can really soar. And yes, you help people soar. And when I think about how you jump out of when you get on the field and you're jumping out of the I'm sorry, my mind just went blank here.
Out of the airplane above the stadium.
You're doing your skydiving and everything. I mean, it's just like, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, as long as I have been in the military, I've been in many helicopters and planes and all that, but I've never taken the opportunity to think about what would it feel like to go from that point to get all the way down to the ground.
That's it.
And that's what life is really about. It's, beyond just taking chances, but realizing the level that you can be at and how you can get there. And so the way that you deliver that message to me is very powerful. And I think that if people, even if they could never see you in person, they would just sit down, take 5 minutes and look at one of your videos, go to your website. I mean, you are phenomenal. When they say that James Bond is speaking it, I'm like, this dude is off the chain. Right?
Yeah.
I love it. I love it because your energy does carry. So why don't you tell everybody how they can find you and give us your social media information and website and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's super simple. KenyonSalo.com. I'm sure it'll be in the show notes. And You can find me also. All my social media is Kenyon Salo. There's not many of us out there, and you'll see. You'll be like, oh, there's that guy. I know that's the one. It's super simple. So follow me, friend me, join me, whatever, and reach out to me on my website, Kenyon Salo, and I look forward to connecting with people.
Awesome. So do you have any events coming up or anything that you want to share?
Yeah, for me, I'm all about being able to travel and scuba dive and things like that. I've got lots of speaking engagements that are lining up for 2019. If anybody's interested in having me on board for that, whether it's for a school or the educators and or for corporations, I can do all those things. And so a lot of things are all happening, and I'm super excited about 2019. It's going to be a massive year, and it's going to be massive for all the people that take action. I'm excited for everybody out there that's taking action.
Well, I know you're ready and I know you're prepared, and I can't wait to see what you got coming out next year because I know it's going to be phenomenal. And I really do want to say thank you again for coming on my show. I appreciate you so much and love you to death. You're my favorite James Bond.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Kimberly. I accept. I absolutely accept. No, stop. No, stop. Really.
You're quite welcome. You are really welcome. And like I said, thank you again for coming on, everybody. This is my man, Kenyon Salo. He is phenomenal. A person who does speaking engagements, and I can tell you, he can sock you all the way from here to there. I mean, if you're down here, I'm telling you, will not be down here very low, very long. Make sure that you reach out to him if you're truly interested in having come to your platform and do a speaking engagement, or either go and see him. Because I'm telling you, it'll be worth the time and the money and the effort. He is a phenomenal guy. And again, thank you for coming on this evening, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Kimberly.
You're welcome. All right. We are going to be bringing on our next guest here in just a couple of seconds, and just getting myself situated so we can bring on a phenomenal guest, Miss Martha Young. And like I said earlier, she is going to be coming on here. So I'm real excited. So Martha, get ready. We're going to bring you on here, Ladybug. Just give me 2 seconds and we'll get you rocking and rolling. All right. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
How are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on the show today.
It is my pleasure, and I'm so glad that you could make it. I know we had to kind of redo a few things to get you on, but we finally got you on here, and I cannot wait to hear the story, because you and I have some things in common that we have not had an opportunity to talk about, but I'm so excited that you were here. And like I said, everyone, please welcome Miss Martha Young to the show. So Martha,
thank you.
Tell the listeners just a little bit more about yourself.
Well, my name is Martha Young. I'm originally from Louisiana, but I live in Corpus Cove, Texas. I'm a grandmother of 9, and I have 5 kids altogether. One son that I raised, which was my ex-husband's son. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. I'm a survivor of that. I had a daughter who passed away at the age of 9 with cancer. Um, right now, I'm doing a new thing. I'm doing an outreach ministry. I actually just joined one, and I'm learning the different things on how to run an outreach ministry. And I have a book that's out that I did with three other women, and I'm also doing my own book.
All
right now.
All right. Well, we have a lot to cover then, because you just gave us a whole spiel of great things
yes, ma'am.
to talk about. And, I definitely got a chance to, review your information and the things that you've been through. And I know that you are a survivor of domestic violence. And
yes.
And I know, I'm not sure if you know that I am also a survivor of domestic violence. So as I said, we do have some things in common, and something that's very close and dear to my heart because of what I have been through. And I've had the opportunity to survive and to tell my story, and have taken my story on the road, and as well as writing a book and so forth. But tell me, what other things have inspired you? I want to know what inspired you about I Am Not Broken Yet. I love that title, about I Am Not Broken Yet. I know that you're a domestic violence survivor, but talk to me more about what has happened past that. Because one of the big things that I try to get a lot of women to understand who we're survivors, yes, but we survived a long time ago. Now we're
Right.
beyond that. And so I always encourage women and men who have gone through domestic violence, stop being just a survivor, stop hanging on to that piece of being a victim. Talk,
Mm-hmm.
talk, talk to me and the listeners more about what it is that gave you the title of I Am Not Broken Yet, and why you decided to start this program, and what you're doing with that, and all those other things that come with it.
Okay. The reason why I started the I'm Not Broken is because my daughter had a best friend that had passed, well, was killed. Her boyfriend killed her, and she was already dealing with domestic violence. And we had already had a conversation about it, and I had told her some of the things that I had went through, and she was still dealing with it, and eventually he killed her. So that made me want to speak out more to younger women, and not just them, to men too, because some men go through it as well. So the not broken come from all the things that I had went through, from losing a child, from dealing with domestic violence. That name one, when I first started out, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do further than organization wise, but I knew I wanted to go out and speak on different things, and I just didn't know what was going to be, because I didn't know if I want to speak about my daughter or what did I want to speak about the domestic violence.
Right.
And so after that happened, and my daughter was crying and she was telling me the things, and I was like, you know what? I need to start speaking out on this more, because we speak about it once a year in October, but some of us don't speak on it at all, and
Exactly.
it's feel like it's been swept up under the rug. And I feel like that it should be spoken about all the time, because domestic violence goes on every day, every minute, every hour. I mean, it have no time limit. It just goes on, and some of us don't know how to come up out of it. So I did not broken to show that I'm 43 years old. I have 9 grandkids. All my kids are grown, and I don't look like the stuff that I have went through. So that was one of the reasons why I did I'm Not Broken, to show others that you don't have to stay in this. And a lot of us are scared. We scared to start over. That was one of my things. I was scared to start over. I didn't want to lose what I had built. So I was scared to let go. And I just want to show that you don't have to sit there. You might struggle for that minute, but it's not gonna be a struggle forever.
Right. But the key thing is, I think a lot of people don't understand that the things that most women are worried about, and we're going to focus more on the women because this is our story, and
Right.
this is your story. And the things that I have learned while talking to other women is that they're more worried about the material side versus realizing
Right.
that those things can come and go, but your life can't. And
Right.
that your daughter friend has experienced this, it died because of somebody else's hands, because of fear of, well, what happens, if I move on, or how am I going to survive, what am I going to do without this person. it's
Mm-hmm.
always, it's always about fear, it's always about control. And
Right.
until women can learn to take that control back, it's harder to move forward. I'm not saying you will never not be able to move forward, but it is definitely
Right.
much move forward. And another thing I like that you're talking about in the conversation that we're having here is about the fact that I feel the same way when it comes to October. I love the month of October. I think it's great, but there still is not enough focus on talking about domestic violence every single day of the week, because it does
Right.
every single day, every hour of the day. There is not a day. It does not discriminate. Doesn't care about what you look like, how old you are, whether you're a man, woman. It's there every single day. And I truly get these new movements going on with the Me Too and all these other movements, but this has been going on for years, and it's taken them for many decades to even call it domestic violence.
Right. Right.
I believe it came out in the 80s is when it was even identified, but there are still many states that are not identifying domestic violence as it should be.
Right.
You can be the victim, and the person who's victimized you, in some states, has a right to get up and just walk out like nothing has ever happened, and you're still struggling trying to get this person off the street to keep them
Right.
from hurting you and hurting other people. So in your program that you're developing here on I Am Not Broken Yet, what are some of the tools and resources, or some of the things that you do provide to help other women if that you are talking to?
Well, providing what I'm working on now is trying to provide a social. I'm looking for a social worker that be able to help them for in shelter if they need food, clothing. Because when I was going through all this, I didn't have nobody that I could go to besides family, and even then, I didn't want to tell my family what I was going through. That was like a top secret. I didn't want nobody to know that I was going through the things I was going through. So
Right.
I want to develop a group so we all could come in and just discuss and talk about the things that's going on, so we can help one another. And when I started out with the organization, that's one of the things I wanted to do. But now I'm moving towards more ministry, and because God, the one brought me out of it. He brought me out of it. It was and when I think about like some of the things that I went through, and the times I prayed, and the time I asked God to remove me, and the times that I didn't know if I was going to be going or coming or how it was going to be, you know, He answered all prayer. He removed me from that situation. He removed me, and so now I'm going more towards. I just want to take. I'm not broken into our outreach ministry, and have the shelters, and have the food drives, and school supplies for the children, and different things going like dealing with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with this new ministry that you're building and you're developing, and you're actually still in the Texas area, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what outreach have you been able to do with some of the churches in the community and other communities? And I'm sure there are definitely some shelters. There are safe shelters there. There are other shelters there
Right.
that help. What is the goal as far as working with them to help you align, what you're trying to do with your program?
Well, I'm in a military town, so there's a lot of shelters for military. So
Mm-hmm.
there's really not too many shelters for women who's not in the military. So
Interesting.
I'm working on that, and also I've been doing a little traveling. So I've been doing a lot of speaking at churches,
Okay.
so church events. And my main topic that we have been talking is about what's hidden behind the mask, as what we talk about the things that we are hiding behind and things that we scared to bring forward, and
Mm-hmm.
what's hidden behind the makeup, how we hide behind all that makeup and
Absolutely.
scared to remove the makeup from us.
Right. Right. And you talked about earlier, just a few minutes ago, where you were talking about how you were hiding the things from the family. Did
Right.
you discover that once you actually accepted things and came out, did you realize that they already knew what was really going on?
Yeah, my mom told me she knew.
Mm-hmm.
She knew, but she was waiting for me to come and talk to her about it. But I never came to her and talked to her about it. And
Mm-hmm.
I just went through it on my own. I didn't want to involve anyone, because involving other people into it, and I go right back to it. I didn't want nobody to be sick and tired of me talking about keep going back and forth, because I had already went back by 20 times and not more
Mm-hmm.
to the same
Well,
situation.
right. And I definitely, hear what you're saying, but I think a lot of times as victims, what we don't realize, and I went through the same process where we
Mhm.
think we're actually protecting our families, and we think we're
Right.
actually protecting our friends and our colleagues and all the people that we're surrounded by. But at the end of the
Hmm.
day, they really do know that we're not hiding anything, and they're much more willing to help and be more involved versus what we oppositely think about. And
Right.
you're victimized every day because you don't really know what day is going to be for you. Every day is going to be different, and so when you start involving people and you start involving your family, you're protecting them as well as you're trying to
Right.
protect yourself. But at the end of the day, we're really not doing them any favors by not telling them. uh,
Right.
so but talking about it consistently, as like you said, with not just the community, but when we're talking with our families, people need to have the understanding of why does this happen, and then when it does happen, how do we help the individual that is being victimized every day. And the
Right.
big thing that I find that the conversation that people need to understand, like you just said something that brought me to think about, is that people they're very critical. They don't understand what you're going through, so they will criticize.
Right.
And you were saying that they want to understand, well, why are you going back and why are you coming? The key is that in order for them to understand, they have to be involved. And everybody has a different story and a different reason, a different purpose.
Right.
When you're criticizing the person who's being victimized, and they, they'll tell you, oh, well, you just need to leave, or if that was me, because we've all done it. We've
Yes,
all been
yes.
there. Until it happens to you, it's a whole different perspective.
Different ball game. Right.
It's a
Right.
whole different ball game.
Right.
So, I think that's a big piece that I find that, when I'm talking to people, and I'm sure that you're even seeing this, is that I think that it's more important sometimes to have not just the person who's been victimized, because we understand what we've gone through, but I think the families need to be really a part of the role, or their partner, their current partner that they may be with, because 90% of the time, most women, if they don't get the person that actually caused the pain and caused the violence, the domestic violence, if they're not put away behind bars, that person is always going to be somewhere out there. And
Right.
not cooperating and working with the legal side of it, then I think a lot of times women don't necessarily, it's hidden in the back of their minds, but it's never really gone until you can have that comfort of knowing
Right.
that individual is no longer going to be in the picture, period. I think that's the piece that's really important. So I guess my next question for you is that, I know you're probably facing some challenges trying to go through this process of keeping your, putting this business together, your organization, because,
Yes.
you've got about 3 or 4 different layers going on right now. So talk a little bit about those challenges, and what is it that's keeping you going consistently?
What's keeping me going consistently is my children, my kids keeping me going, because much as all the things I'm going through, I wanted to give up a couple of times doing this, because there was I couldn't get no one that would mentor me into this, or tell me which way I can go. Out of all the people I had reached out to try to do it, I kept getting stuck. Or either I find someone, and then that fell through, then I find somebody else, or that fell through. So I started doing like events on my own. So I did my first event last year called "Was Hidden Behind the Mask." I did that one, and that was like a nice turnout. And after that, I was like, okay, so now what's next? I always feel like I'm not doing enough. That's my biggest challenge. I feel like I'm not doing enough. And every time I hear that someone is going through the same situation I'm going through, then I think about, oh God, what tell me what I should do. Because I want to reach out and be able to help that person. And I know that person's going through. I want to go out and help someone else. So my biggest thing is that I never feel like I'm doing enough.
Well, the key is that you are doing enough. And I think a lot of times, because we've been through what we've been through, we always think we're never doing enough. And the big part of it, like I said, is just having the conversation. Just
Right.
speaking up is the first step. Being able to even admit that you've gone through something is tragic as this, and then knowing that there's so many others, because unfortunately we're not going to be able to save the world and help everyone.
Right.
But at the same token, if you can share the information and the resources, it really makes a huge difference. And it's much more than what some of them are actually getting. Like you even said, you didn't know where to go. You didn't have any idea who to talk to. So all those little pieces that we think aren't enough, 90% of the time, that one little thing is what's going to get them over the hump and help them make the decision.
Right.
But the biggest thing is having that self-identity, that piece right there, knowing that you got to be able to say to yourself, I'm going through this. Now it's time for me to let God guide me out of
Come out of it. It's time for you to come out of it. Right.
In order to continue to have and be able to move forward in life. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. They're in between those stages and not really knowing what they need to do. And if they do know that they need to get out, that fear is what stops them, because of course somebody's telling you every day that you're worthless and that you're never going to make it. Nobody's going to want you. That cycle is continual. And until you have enough faith and belief that God is going to guide you out of that, you will be stuck. We've been there, so we understand it. So talk a little bit about your story there.
And a lot of people they think only domestic violence is only just physically. They don't realize that it's mentally, it's financially, it's more to it. It's not just okay, he just puts his hands on you. Think about the finances. Think my biggest mistake was I did a joint account with my ex-husband. And I was making the most money, and he was paying the bills out of my money, but he was doing what he wanted to do with his money. That was that was financially. Mentally is when he was talking about me, calling me out my name, making me think that I was worthless. You know, that was mentally. And it's different kind of abuses. It's different kind of things that that we go through dealing with
Right.
domestic violence.
Right, because what people don't understand, it's like I said, it's all about control. So you have to build your way up. Now
Mm-hmm.
there are some who don't do that from one end to the other. They just jump right into the physical. But because we live in a society, in a world where it's all about the physical. It's all
Right.
about being rude. It's all about we can't even have a conversation without somebody wanting to kill another person or do something.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much violence in the world today that's really a way that people believe to resolve things.
Right.
And even if that's where their foundation started at. So if they've seen that, they'll actually believe that is the proper way to handle a relationship. With the arguing
That's
and
right.
calling out your name and being disrespectful. So there's so
They
many.
think it's love.
Right. And there are some women who actually believe, oh, he just loves me. I'm like, wait a minute.
And I was one of the women.
Right. Well, and my theme is, if love should not hurt. Period.
Right.
And you don't have to be in a bad situation to understand that. You don't have to
Right.
be in a domestic violence situation to realize that if love is hurting you, it's time to let it go. It's time to
Right.
move on. I would rather have that 5 minutes of feeling lonely and sad versus having to feel it for a lifetime or not be here to talk about it at all.
Right. And that's what one of the things that he used to do to me. He told me that if when he stopped beating on me or stopped doing the talking bad about me, that means he don't love me no more. So I was like, okay, so I got to keep him doing what he doing to me, because that's the way he say he loved me. And it took me years to realize that is not love. It took me years to realize that I need to get up out of there, because I didn't want my daughters to know that was love.
Right.
I had to
Exactly.
look at my girls every day and say, okay, what is I'm doing? Like, I don't want my daughters to grow up, all my granddaughters to grow up thinking that, hey, in order for me to feel love, I got to be mistreated. This is love. No, so I would know that's one of the biggest things. When I left him, that was one of my biggest accomplishments.
Right.
When I walked out that door.
Right. Because what you didn't want to do was set the example, and you were
Right.
exactly doing, not knowing, oh my gosh. And then once you realize that, oh my God, this is not what I want my kids to see. This is not how love's supposed to be. You did the right thing. It was time for you to prepare yourself to make that exit. And I'm so glad
Right.
you did, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be able to sit here and talk to me, and you wouldn't have been able to be a part of that book. So talk to me a little bit about the book that you were collaborated on as a co-author, called War Stories, Volume 1.
So I tell my story about where I'm from. I tell how it all began. I met him when I was 18 years old. And I met him because I had already had a daughter, and I was pregnant already. And so he was taking care of kids that wasn't none of his. So I felt like that, okay, this is the kind of man I want. He gonna take care of kids that's not none of his. And then plus the money that he had a job, but he was all the time the biggest drug dealer in Louisiana.
Wow. Okay.
So I talk about that. I talk about how I felt like that once I married him, I was still dealing with the other women in the street. I was still dealing with, the drama behind him, period. But I thought I had won because I married him.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about how it stormed on that night, on the day of my wedding and the night before my wedding. And my mom walked in and asked me, are you sure this is what you want to do? And I'm from Louisiana, so the first thing the older folks say is that if it storms, it's gonna be a lot of tears. And so I talk about that. I talk about how I lost my daughter to cancer. I talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about how he was an alcoholic, and how majority of our fights was dealing with when he was drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about how I was working for Homeland Security, and how he moved the other woman in my house while I was away with the children. I talk about only some of the things that I went through in that book,
mm-hmm.
and how I got over some of the things that he done to me.
Right. So when in the book, what do you share about how to move forward? Like you said, you've talked about all the negative side. Now tell me what do you share with women in that book to teach them how to continue to move forward?
But I tell them that I did a lot of praying. I did a lot of crying and a lot of praying, and I wasn't gonna leave him. I tell him I wasn't gonna leave him. I was gonna fight for my marriage. And the same police officer was coming to my house every weekend, like he knew us by name.
Wow.
And he told me what the last time that this is it, because I had hit him side the head with a cookie jar because he took the girl to my daughter's gravesite. And he told me, he said, "This is it. You're gonna pack your kids' stuff and you're gonna leave." And I like, no. I worked hard for this. Why I have to leave? He's like, "No, let him have it." And I talk about how I struggled. So I struggled. I know how I feel to have no lights, no water, no gas.
Mm-hmm.
I was out of job for a couple of months. I didn't have no job, and I was just drawing unemployment. So I did a lot of praying, and God blessed me with that. When I got that first job for after leaving him, then things started falling into place. But I still let him back into my life. So I talk about how I still let him back in. I was okay with him hiding his truck in my garage. I was okay. Yeah, I was okay with him living with the other woman. So I talk about that. And I just woke up one morning and I looked in the mirror and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why is I'm sitting here still letting him do the things to me? Mm-hmm. So I packed up my daughter, because by that time all my kids was grown except one, and I moved. And I started a new life. And I knew the only way that I can start over is if I didn't be nowhere close to him. Mm-hmm. I was going to go somewhere that I know that he wasn't going to come, and that was Texas. And I went 8 hours away that I knew he wasn't going to come. So I did a lot of praying. I did a lot of fasting. I worked myself through it. Mm-hmm. And I asked God to help me, basically.
Yeah, you did a lot of thinking, a lot of
yes,
reanalyzing who you were and why you were doing things. Even though you had this man was no longer in your home, you were still allowing him to be a part of your life. And that's saying something. That it said a lot about who you were at that time, right? It made you realize that what kind of an individual am I to continue to have this type of relationship, knowing that, okay, you were probably still legally married at that time, right?
Right.
Other woman, and he's living his life and still having his cake and eat it too on the other side.
Right. So, and I talk about, and it's after because he was living his life, and it's, I guess some women go through it. I'm like, why he living his life? Let me go start dating. But I felt so bad doing it because we were still married that I couldn't. I would set up a date and wouldn't even go because I felt like in my eyes I was in God's eyes that wasn't right. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't go through with it. And then when I moved to Texas, I was still married to him. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to live my best life too. And then I tried it and I still feel bad for it. I was like, you know what? I can't do it. Mm-hmm. I can't, just because he did wrong, don't make me have to do wrong. So mm-hmm. I prayed my way through everything until eventually I got over it. It took me a long time to get over him. It took me a long time. I mm-hmm. cried plenty of nights. Saying, okay, God, I married him. I said I do. Just fix him, and to bring us back together. And I'm like, and every time I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? No, because all he gonna do is come destroy what I'm trying to accomplish.
Right.
And the last time me and him, I haven't talked to him over 10 years. So the last time me and him had a conversation. It was so bad. I was actually in Texas. It was so bad that I had to fall on my knees and tell God, just take it. I can't do this no more. Take mm-hmm. it. Deal with her and him both. I can't do it no more. And after that, I haven't seen nor hear from like over 10 years.
Wow. So you guys are not still legally married, right?
No.
Okay, good. That's good. Yeah, you don't need to hear from him. You don't need to talk about him. You don't need to bring his voice up and his name because you don't want to give him that power, right?
Right.
As you keep living your life and doing what you're doing because it's all about you now. It's all about you. That beautiful daughter that you still have at home, and you still got to do what you have to do. So I'm proud of you for taking that step forward. And even though you still felt that pain 10 years ago, that pain you were feeling was that feeling of having to be alone. It wasn't so much that you missed him, but
I was
starting
scared to
over,
be alone.
right? Starting over is hard, but look where you're at now, and
Right.
look what you've done and doing for other women, so that they can continue to move forward in their life. Because having somebody on your side is not important if they're not going to be there for you the right way,
Right.
and vice versa. Being relationships about partnerships and about how you add on to each other to make each other grow
Building.
and to build each other. So you did exactly what you were supposed to do. It took you a little bit longer, but God told you, look, it's time. It's time for
It's
you to
not.
move on. Let this go. I got you. I got your back. I've been holding you up all this time. I'm gonna keep holding you up
Yes.
until you can continue to walk more on your own. So you've done a phenomenal job. Keep doing the program that you're doing. Continue to reach out to individuals. Start making your plans for 2019, because it's going to continue to grow. You're on the right path. You're
But
absolutely
I actually have a couple of, with the outreach ministry I'm in now. I actually have a couple of places that's scheduled for 2019 that
okay.
I'm doing and doing. But I'm praying that God will open up more doors so I can be able to go out and reach more. Because basically, that's what I do. I tell my story and tell the things that I went through and how did I come out of it all.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, and
basically,
the doors will continue to open. Do you have any other events for the rest of this year, or any other
the
speaking
rest of
engagements?
this year, no, ma'am, it's all next year.
All right. Well, keep me informed. Let us know what's going on. Tell the listeners how they can get a hold of you and find you.
Well, I'm on Facebook. I have two Facebook pages. I have Martha Young. It's Victoria to Vic. I'm sorry, Victim to Victorious, and that's like my business page. That's what I post like mostly all my stuff. If I got something going on, if I'm speaking, I have my Francine Payne page, and I be a lot on that page. That could people seem to reach out to me more on that page, and also on Instagram you can reach me. And if you have any questions, my email is I am not broken yet at gmail.com.
All right. Absolutely. That's it. Yes. So what you're doing, like I said, keep up the good work. And for those who are in your area in Texas, if you need help, please reach out to Francine. She's, excuse me, Miss Martha Young. I call you both names because I
Yeah.
think you have both of
Yeah,
them.
Francine was just my alias because hiding from him. That's what it
Right,
was for.
right. I apologize. So Miss Martha,
That's okay.
said for those who need that assistance, not sure where to go, or just need somebody to talk to, listen to her story. It is beyond what I could even imagine. I mean, I definitely went through some craziness, but I think you went through that craziness a whole lot longer, and I'm glad, like I said,
Yes.
here, and that you're helping others and you're continuing to help yourself and continuing to
Thank
grow.
you.
You're welcome, and it's been a pleasure to have you on my show this evening.
I'm so glad that you had me on the show today. I'm glad.
Well, you're very welcome, sweetheart, and you enjoy the rest of your evening. And like I said, we'll keep in touch, and we'll talk
Yes,
soon.
ma'am. Definitely.
All right, you
Definitely.
have a good evening. Thank you.
You too.
You're
Good,
welcome.
good night.
Good night. All right. So, for the rest of my listeners out there, I thank you for coming and listening to my show this evening. Like I said, we had a dual show this evening. It was a pleasure to have Kenyon Salo back on the set with me this evening. Then, of course, we just had Miss Martha Young. So, it was great to hear her story. If you would like to be a guest in 2019, all you have to do is send me a email. And what I need obviously is a short bio. If you have a logo, please send your logo to me. Also, you will need to send me a picture of yourself. I like professional pictures so that I can do the promo. And then I will send you all any other information and detail about when and where and what time, and any if there's any fees or anything that goes along with being a guest on the show in the future. So again, it's been a pleasure having you on. I will give you here my email address. You can send your emails to me at kimberlymclemore@gmail.com. But until next time, like I said, it has been a pleasure to talk to you all. We have two phenomenal guests coming up in the next couple of weeks because the month of December is coming as well. So be looking out for the information on that here within the next couple of days. But like I said, until next time, have a good evening, and I'm out. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. We will be back next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Follow us on Spreaker, www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. View our new WSBI website anytime at www.wsbillc.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.